Without further ado, I am now going to introduce our next speaker, Jasmin Gonzalez, Community Marketing Director at Tekeriya. So Jasmine is the Community Marketing Director at Tekeriya, a nonprofit that empowers Latinx professionals with the resources and support that they need to thrive and become leaders in the tech industry. Prior to her transition, excuse me, Zoom keeps opening up my window here where I have the bio. Prior to her transition, hold for a light pause. We're all practicing patience and emotional intelligence. I see you all smiling at me, so that's a good sign. Prior to her transition to tech, she supported immigrant and underrepresented communities as an educator and advocate. And I would add, please add anything else you'd like to this beautiful bio. She will be joined today in conversation with Milagros, and I will pass the mic to you.
Thank you, Mariela, for that wonderful introduction. I'm so happy to be here with the community and just share a little bit more about my story and the work that we're doing at Techqueria.
Hi, hello, everybody. Milagros here. But yeah, I just wanted us to get the conversation started. Jasmine, I wanted for us to learn a little bit more about yourself, where you're based, and a little insight into your career journey towards Tekeriya.
Absolutely. So I am based on the East Coast, typically in Connecticut or New York. I am Puerto Rican background. My parents both grew up here, so I would be second generation Latina. And I think, as Mariela kind of shared, I did start off as an educator, traditional education and ESL. So I taught English as a second language to predominantly immigrant communities, a lot of whom were Hispanic or Latinx. And now I work with almost like the grown-ups now. So I'm over at Techqueria and I serve our community of around 10,000 plus community members who are working in tech industry. And if you weren't aware, typically most tech companies only have about 4 to 5% representation of Latinx individuals. So I love being able to be in a position where I'm supporting them in an external capacity and giving them that community that they might not have in their workplace.
Yeah, definitely. That is many times in companies, there's not a big community, so you need to find that connection. So how does Tekeriya support the Latinx professionals in tech? How does it work? A little bit more.
So we have a free online community. We mostly we're joined in Slack. So you can apply to become a member of our Slack community. And by applying, you just have to identify and self-identify as Latinx and self-identify as someone in the tech industry. You join our community, you're able to connect with, like I said, thousands of people who are also in similar positions to you. And then we offer some programming and events and different opportunities to our members through that capacity. So a lot of it is, skill building, giving them the information and the skills that they need to advocate for themselves. That might look like workshops or online events. We also offer that sense of community. So we do have, mixers and happy hour events where you could meet people face to face. With COVID restrictions now, that's been a little tricky, but we're still making it a point. And I get excited because it's not very often that you see another Latino that's in your work field. So you kind of get to geek out with someone who can relate to your story about your tia, but then they can also relate to the structures that happen in one-to-ones or your all hands meetings.
Absolutely. I know. I saw that you do cafecitos. There's one coming up after Latino cafecitos, and then there was one on UX design. And I saw that you have newcomers mixers also. So those are great.
So I love the new member mixers. Those happen on our first Fridays. And then the cafecitos are something that's actually community led. So community members kind of organize these cafecitos for different niche areas of tech. And then we've also expanded to identity ones like Afro Latinidad. And it gives you kind of that warm, cozy feel of having a safe space to share your experience. And when you're thinking about the technical ones, they actually offer like advice or topics that you might need to like upskill on. So some of my favorites, and full transparency, I'm not technical, but I do attend these often. I really enjoy the cybersecurity one, or cybernetico, and I've learned so much about like cyber hygiene and, keeping in touch with all this crazy stuff out there. And then the product cafecitos are really nice. I think it's a growing field, and it's nice to meet other folks who kind of made that transition, and they give you great tips. They have some great presenters, but it's usually very casual, literally like a cafecito, like you're in the cafe, just sipping and enjoying some conversation.
That's wonderful. Yes, I love the coffee conversations. Are there any ways in which Tekeriya makes it easy for the Latinx that are interested in starting a career in tech also?
Yeah, I would say within our community, we do have so if you're not familiar with Slack, there's different channels that you can go into for conversations. One of my favorite is the career advice channel, where members can actually ask questions. And the best part is you can actually ask anonymous questions in that channel. So if you're a little scared, or if you're feeling like some imposter syndrome, you can go in there and ask a great question. And our community first. So our community members are always jumping on board to support each other. And I think that's something where I think a big part of our Latinx culture is family, and like having that tie, or even if it isn't your chosen family, it may be your work family. Having that network is something that we really instill. And within our community, I think that's something that continues to be at the center of what we do. And they're always just helping each other, and they're so insightful. It's great.
That's awesome. Yes, I feel like if it's not family, friends, like we're super social. We need to be in touch, So, and in terms of perhaps Latinx that are interested in more of growing into leadership roles, would that also be a part of it? Are there any other resources?
So we don't particularly have like a leadership accelerator or anything of that nature. But like I said, we do have a lot of folks who have either pivoted into entrepreneurship or like founders now. And I think amongst themselves, they do support each other with different tips and tricks. And then we're looking to expand some of our programming to kind of hit some of these other areas. I would say in the past, we've definitely had a focus on engineers and, negotiating pay and things of that nature. And I'd love to start, ramping up for some more programming that's focused on like founders or folks who are kind of branching out on their own.
That's awesome. Could you tell us a little bit of maybe what are some of the challenges that you face when setting up and managing the Tekeriya community?
Yeah. I would say on a lighter note, I did not grow up a lot with, I guess, speaking as much Spanish. I understand it well, but sometimes I see things in the community, and I am noticing now even more so than before that there are just truly so many dialect like differences in how we express ourselves. So I like that I get to, bring up, I always just learn something new, a word, a phrase, something here and there. But I think with COVID over the past year or so, we've grown a lot. And I think a challenge there is making sure that we are kind of growing with intentionality and making sure that people or new members feel like they're supported and understand how to navigate our space, which is how we actually came up with adding in these new member mixers. So we host those now, and it's been nice. I've actually seen a few people in person after meeting them online, and it's so cute to like be like, whoa, like there you are. I remember you were, and it's a very casual mixer. We actually play a game. So I'm like, oh, I remember you had this item. There's a part where you have to find something that represents your background, and I'll remember like just the random item they found.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So I was gonna ask, with a community of over 16,000 in size, how do you manage to keep the conversations engaging and the mission afloat? Like, that's a large community to be managing. There's a lot.
Yeah. What I do is I try and, we are very organic. So I would say our conversations are kind of stemming from different either points of conversation that members might start. And then what I do is as a community manager there, I kind of like bop into different channels and we'll check into like what the interests are or common themes and either find a resource or find someone that we can ask within our network. So we work with a lot of tech companies and ERGs, and they help us with some of this programming and resources of that nature. So if I notice that most recently there's been like an interest in program management, which is something that we haven't really covered in the past. It's a newer interest in some of our members. So right now I'm working on making sure that we can put up some like ramp up some type of programming or resources about how to get into program management, what type of books or kind of skills you may need to succeed there. But I think a lot of it has to do with just keeping an eye out, which I don't know about. For me, I will say from teaching, I think I'm so used to being all over that it's almost like I'm now just checking, instead of watching students everywhere, I'm just checking channels all the time.
That's great. And I was, that kind of like gave me a segue to my next question, because you have so many resources for the Latinx professionals. I'm curious how you're bringing all of these resources together.
Yeah. So we have a great section on our website about resources. We also really do utilize the functionality that's in Slack. So amongst all these channels, I believe we have around 200 channels. We pin a lot of like important content, which 200 sounds overwhelming, but we also like, it is overwhelming in some ways, but we have some technical channels and then we have more, identity-based channels. And then we also have just like cultural channels. So you might see, a PM book list pinned in the product channel, whereas in like Comida, I remember someone started a thread on like the best hot sauce. And I think that's pinned in there. And we have like an official count of what members have decided is the best hot sauce.
That's wonderful. So basically you can decide which groups are the ones that you like to participate in and keep the conversations there. Awesome. That's great. So how were you able to build and create a sense of community and belonging virtually, especially, with COVID times?
Yeah. I would say it's almost naturally. I don't want to take credit for something that was already like really trajected. So Tekeriya, I would say, unlike other communities, especially Slack communities that I'm involved in, they are very natural. And I think a lot of it does come from like all the orgullo and like pride that we have in like ourselves for being in this industry and making it into these places and spaces, that the members really truly just engage so much with each other. And I think for even those who might be more introverted or shy, you'll see people like just mention others. And I do it myself too. We have an introduction channel where they share introductions, share a little bit about themselves. And I always remember, I'm like, oh, we have Milagros who used to be a teacher, and I'll like shout them out in a thread that might be related, and bring them into conversation in that manner. And we really do, I would say, I really truly do believe that we are very inclusive and welcoming at most of our events. It's very, casual, come as you are. We always try and include like a question and answer period, or sometimes for like advice and talking. And I think in doing that consistently, more and more people are starting to feel both comfortable and almost like talking about these issues or talking about or asking anything is like a go. Which is lovely, I think, especially being virtual.
Yes. It's probably easier also to, say, okay, I have this in my mind. Does anybody else share it?
Yeah.
And many times you even make friends online that in person, it wouldn't happen any other way. So actually it's a great opportunity, actually. So I was curious to learn a little bit more about how your last summit went, the Heritage Month summit that you had.
Yeah, it was, I feel like I'm just resting from it. So we hold a annual Latinx Heritage Month conference or summit. We just had ours on October 6th to the 8th of this month. And it was great. And I'm not even tooting my own horn. I think that our programming this year, we really tried to take into account that there are a lot of nuances that come with the Latinx experience in tech. And while we can definitely, or we could have planned a summit that was very tech heavy, But something that we're able to provide is that look into how being Latinx transfers into your workplace or into your identity and things of that nature. So we structured our summit through 3 themes. We had a careers day, a cultura day, and a comunidad day. And across the 3 days, we looked into intersectionality and career advancement and belonging and looking at how to network and leverage communities to advance in your career. And I think I was just so excited to see so many Latinos on screen who were in the field and badasses. And it was great to hear them. But then also it was really nice to see how vulnerable they were being and sharing their experiences. Because I think it would be naive of us to not mention that sometimes it does get hard. And sometimes it is. And I think Carmen said this on her last talk at the very end. It is a constant it's a constant task to like advocate for yourself. And even if you aren't necessarily doing it, I think being in environments where you feel like you're included or they're open to diversity is very hard. And if you aren't in one, it makes your work very challenging. So it's hard to kind of navigate that and not feel like you have space. But I think for Tekeriya, our focus for the summit especially was like to really highlight that those spaces are there and we can like improve them by being together and by acting like a comunidad. And we can really help each other through that process.
Yeah, that's super important. I can tell from personal experience even that many times in a tech company, you being Latina, like I just felt like a little bit, I didn't have my group there. Like it was just me in tech, pretty much me and 2 other folks. So I'm really glad that Tekeriya exists as a community where you can, come together and support each other and find each other, right, and connect. So yeah, that's wonderful.
Absolutely. I see Lisa asked a question about a little bit about our demographics of Tekeriya. So I can definitely share a bit about that. We have our community is predominantly falling into that millennial bracket, but I guess that's kind of large. We do have overall gender parity. And like I said at the beginning, we have grown extensively over the past year, and it's kind of wild. We've grown almost 100% from last summer to this summer. So almost doubling in size. And with that has come a very large, diverse population. So we're seeing everyone that, folks that are doing like a late stage pivot into tech. And then we're seeing folks who like have been in tech for a while and have just learned about Tekeriya, which I really enjoy. And I think a lot of that has to do with also, we actually are completely organically grown. So a lot of our efforts are grassroots. We have chapters, and then through our national base where I'm at, we kind of expand that programming and resources to more folks. But everything that we do is completely most people join by word of mouth. So they're just kind of learning about us. And I feel like we're still very scrappy. We're very small. And it's nice. It's a journey.
I was curious, where are your seated chapters located?
Yeah. So we have some San Francisco chapter. We have some folks on the East Coast in New York, Boston, Atlanta, Miami. And then we're currently kind of revamping and kind of uprooting some of our others just to get them on the go post, I guess, this next stage of pandemic. So kind of looking at how we can best scale those and, support folks at the local level.
Awesome. I see some questions here about what's the best piece of advice Jasmine has for someone transitioning from education to tech. And I think Sergio asked a similar one too, what strengths translate best into the tech industry?
Yeah. So I'm not going to lie. I think that overall, if you're transitioning, especially from a non-traditional background like I did, I think networking is going to be your best skill and like your best bet. And I hate to say that because I feel like it's a broken record, but it's truly the most important thing. That's how I've gotten into tech. I think, asking folks for informational interviews and like reaching out to people is something that has really helped. And I really do always recommend it. I always tell Tekeriya members, like if they are scared to ask someone in our network, in our community, I'll ask for them and like make an introduction. And the worst that can happen is someone says no. But having that opportunity to, learn a little bit about roles that you're interested in or skills from someone in that position is probably your best, idea.
So basically mentorship would be like one
Yeah.
of the best things. I also did I've been in tech, I've been in education, and I can say that also one of the skills that teachers have is presenting so well and like explaining so well, and having positions where you can also do that and leverage that are wonderful.
Yeah. I think I always say from teaching, I now feel like I can like talk to a wall, and it's so silly, but like almost nothing like will throw me off. So it's definitely helped in my tech journey because some different companies are, they're very different, especially when you're looking at DEI or like culture, work. You never know what you're going to get. And it's really nice to like be prepared, but also just like be ready to take it in. And I'm like, okay, this is fun.
No, be ready to speak. I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
Like, at least personally,
Yeah.
I speak English and Spanish, and many times when I had to present in English, it was like, oh, but then when I got into teaching, it became so much easier. So they go hand in hand, many, many facets of it.
They do.
And then I was curious to know, how could we connect with you and with Tekeriya, and how can we support you in these endeavors?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I just placed my LinkedIn in the chat. Anyone is able to connect with me via LinkedIn. And then or if you're interested in joining Tekeriya, our application to join, it usually takes around a week or two to get, processed into the community, but you can apply to join at tekeriya.org/join. Pretty simple application process. And you're also able to share your information or resumes if you're interested in roles. And we share that through a resume bank offering with different tech companies. So you're able to kind of subscribe to join that.
I know, I saw that you had a job board.
Yes, we do have a job board. We also have a monthly career fair if you are on the look for a job. I love them because I'm all about efficiency. You can plop in for like 2 hours and meet 15 or so companies, and you don't even have to stay for the 2 hours. You can go in and go out, and it's great. And that those companies are committed to hiring diverse tech candidates, so it's even better. But yeah, I think, joining the community is definitely your first step. And I really do say, like, I think you mentioned it, you can join any channels that you are interested in. You can join and, interact at the capacity that you feel most comfortable doing. It's really judgment free. We really do strive to be community first and really offer that safe space. And we also we allow allies into our network on a limited capacity. So if you aren't in tech, or if you don't identify as Latinx, you can join and kind of offer yourself to our community. And then if they'd like to engage with you, they can.
That's wonderful. Yes, you mentioned before you worked hand in hand with ERGs also. I was curious about how do you work together with companies, and how also having the job board, I'm guessing it goes around there that way.
Yeah. So we work with a lot of ERGs at companies, and I think that's something that's starting to grow a lot more, especially in tech. And we either, support them in the capacity of offering different services. So we have we do programming with ERGs. Sometimes they've done like a more like volunteer-based kind of thing where they offer like resume reviews or career advice to our members. And then we also just support them with either, getting connected to our members, or just connecting with everyone that is in a similar position and sharing ideas there.
That's wonderful. And it's also wonderful to see companies interest, in inclusion and diversity and practicing it actively. So I'm glad to hear. Well, Jasmine, I appreciate your time, and I want to say thank you for taking the time to connect with us and, speak with us. It was great to learn more about Tekeriya, and I can't wait to be part of those mixers.
Thank you. I hope to see you all there.
Awesome. Beautiful conversation. Congratulations with everything. I love all of the things. I can pick one. I love that you all could vibe on the career transition too, coming from education. I've been mentioning this throughout the summit. I'm working with an alternative school here in Patagonia. So you all are giving me fuel on, being more confident in teaching in Spanish, actually, since English is my first language. And it's like, but they're kids. The kids they're like, I like Jasmine. I love that you said you can talk to a wall and it doesn't matter. Just get it out.
You're an instant celebrity when you're a teacher.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you both so much. I really enjoyed listening to your thoughtful reflections, and congratulations on everything again, Jasmine.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.